A debut album from Sombr, a fresh song from Doja Cat, the start of a new era, and also a D-side from Rae Jepsen's iconic pop album, Emotion. It is a huge New Music Friday, and I am here to bop or flop the highlights and the lowlights from it. This is the Pop Pod, and I am Sam, also known as Pop Sam Cam. Sadly, I am alone for Bop or Flop this Friday. Jono is on holidays in Tokyo, so I'm going to be doing this one alone, but I'm going to try and make it as fun for you as possible without him. Please don't tune out now, I promise. I promise I'm going to do my best. It helps that it is a huge week for new music, particularly for albums. There are so many out this week. We have Sombr, we also have Wolf Alice, we have Royel Otis, we have Laufey as well. I feel like I'm getting the pronunciation of that wrong, but Leve. Okay, we're gonna go with that, but drop it in the comments if I'm saying it incorrectly. I am trying, it's just not sticking in my brain. Anyway, there is so much new music to get through, and I am going to go through, and to make it a little bit more interesting today, seeing as though we don't have two bop or flop opinions, I'm going to give you my rating out of 10 for these songs that I'm going to go through. But there's about 10 of them. They are all pretty... No, I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to give away what I think about it. We're just going to get straight into it. Before we do, though, if you do like this pop pod, make sure you are liked or subscribed to it. I don't think you can like it anywhere. So I'm just going to say subscribed in the future. Just make sure you subscribe to it. Also rate it 5 stars if you do like it. It really helps with the visibility of this podcast, and things just keep getting bigger and bigger. And I'm really excited about it because it means we can get bigger guests and we can just have a bigger community to talk about pop music in depth with. Speaking of which, if you do like doing that, I do have a Discord which you can jump in and chat with other people who listen to the podcast about new releases, old releases, anything pop related. That's enough of my spiel. Let's get into Pop or Flop. The first song that I want to talk about is Doja Cat's Jealous Type.
Boy, let me know what this is, can't decide. Could be torn between two worlds that I just can't decide. Which one is leading me to heaven, paradise?
This came out last night after she has teased it for what feels like an absolute eternity. This has been such a long rollout. We got the Marc Jacobs ad earlier in the summer, and I felt like we were going to get it just a couple weeks after. It wasn't to be, but it's finally arrived, and to be honest, it doesn't dull the impact at all. This is the lead single off her forthcoming album V, which is set to arrive in just over a month's time. I think from what I've seen, it's got 15 tracks. It's going to be really heavily reliant on 80s and 90s sounds. Jack Antonoff is in the mix there for the first time ever, I believe, working with Doja Cat. Jealous Type is very much in that 80s world. It is in the like Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Janet Jackson kind of vibe, which I feel like as soon as she teased this sound, I was interested, because it's been such a long time, I think, since a pop star has really thrown themselves into this era of music. Obviously, the 80s has been such a massive reference for people, particularly with that kind of Max Martin, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd style of synth pop. But they haven't gone into this sort of more R&B leaning style that artists like Janet Jackson were doing back in that time. And I feel like Doja Cat is the perfect person to do it, because you need so much charisma to pull this off, and she just has charisma in spades. I think she is probably one of the most personality-driven pop stars we have right now. She took a slight detour with Scarlett to prove her rap chops, but I feel like she's gotten that off her chest, and she's going full throttle back into pop. This does a great job at putting together that kind of say-so singing with a more rap style, and I love how she always brings that rap through in the second verse and just absolutely kills it when she's like, "You must be on Molly." I think that's one of the standouts of the song. The hook is just so delectable, dripping with melody, and there's been an absence of this kind of pop music this year. Like, I feel like Last year, we obviously had the Sabrina Carpenters and Charlie XCXs of the world, like bringing that through in the summer, Chapel Roan as well. But this year, the tone has been slightly different. You don't need to hear me say that again. I've said it a lot. But this feels like a real point of difference from anything else that's going on right now. And I'm just so excited to hear what else she has in store for this era. I'm going to give Jealous Type a 9 out of 10. I think it is a slam dunk for her and a real course correction. Very excited for her. The next one I'm going to talk about is I Wish I Knew How to Quit You off Sombr's debut album, I Barely Know Her. Things have happened very quickly for Sombr. Very young New York kid who has dropped this album after a string of successful singles, which started off with Back to Friends, then Undressed, and 12 to 12. Back to Friends and Undressed, massive Billboard hits, still rising there, and I think will continue to do so. 12 to 12, also in the Billboard Hot 100. That's 3 songs in the Billboard charts, which is pretty incredible for somebody who has just released a debut album. These days, it's rare to see an album with 3 songs that chart in the charts, particularly for a new album. So to have that without the album even out, I mean, it is out now, but this all happened without the album out, is pretty phenomenal. So it's he's a very exciting prospect, I think. This album, I've had the chance to listen to it a couple of times now, and I think that it delivers on that promise. We are in an era where bands are basically dead in the mainstream. And so we've had to come around to the new rock model being a solo star, and Sombr very much fulfills that. I feel like his kind of look as a frontman draws on everything from Mick Jagger in terms of his gangly kind of look to Julian Casablancas with the really reverb-soaked phone line vocals. But then he melodically, I feel like he goes back to things like the Beach Boys. And then also in the mix of that, he's obviously very smart. And I don't think he's done this on purpose, but I think that it fits really well with the fact that TikTok was kind of really invested for a while in the slowed down, chopped and soaked reverb versions of songs. And there is an element of that to what Sombr is doing, which I think is really clever, but it doesn't feel gimmicky and it doesn't feel cheap. In fact, this whole album feels supremely produced, and the hooks are what it is all about. I mean, this song, I Wish I Knew How to Quit You, has this almost like 60s feel to it, but also this really modern, stomping, thunderous chorus that just really shows an ambition to him that takes him out of being that TikTok artist and places him into potentially being a superstar. And that is because he has presence, he has charisma, and also there's something that I've been thinking about a lot, and that is that he has melodrama. And I mean that in the sense that if you remember when Olivia Rodrigo released her album Sour, she didn't shy away from the press in talking about the fact that, yes, a lot of these emotions are turned to 11. And I'm not going to shy away from that because I'm a teenage girl and this is exactly what I'm feeling. And so many people who had come before her had been shamed for being too melodramatic, Taylor Swift being one of the very clear examples. And I feel like you can attribute that to this Sombr album as well. He feels all these emotions intensely. And while you could criticize it for being over the top, I've been a guy in my 20s. I know that that is actually quite real. And he does such a good job of just going full-bodied into these emotions and bringing them out with these huge anthemic hooks, these really intense present guitars, and these vocals that are just almost crying out. I think that this song is great. It's not my favorite on the album, but it is the one that they are going with. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, and you'll be hearing a lot more from me on the Sombr album, I Barely Know Her. The next one I'm going to go with is Laufey's A Matter of Time. Well, the album is called A Matter of Time. This song is called Mr. Eclectic.
Truth be told, you're quite pathetic, Mr. Eclectic, Alan Poe.
if you know my journey with her, you know that it has been a push and pull because I really, really like her. Like, I love her personality, and I really like that she's doing something different in the mainstream, and she's been able to bring these stylings to an audience that I don't think would have soaked up this kind of music easily otherwise. The issue is this is just not my favorite kind of music generally. So it's been difficult for me to really get my head around it. And Mr. Eclectic in particular goes so so explicitly into this style that the first time I heard it, I was like, my first thought is that I want to hate this, but I'm going to sit with it because I have loved some of the singles from this album so far. And I feel like she was putting a real contemporary slant on them. I'm not sure if Mr. Eclectic feels as contemporary as those other songs, but what I will tell you about her is that she is just so magnetic in selling these kind of styles. I feel like when I hear other people do it, for example, when I used to hear Michael Bublé, I was like, oh, at times it feels like an act. And part of that was that he was doing cover versions, and at points I feel like the identity of Michael Bublé was lost in all of that. And I never feel that with her because I feel like she just sells this so effortlessly. You can tell that it is coming out of every pore, and for that reason it sells it for me. And there is something really endearing about this song that the charm offensive is something that I just cannot even deny. So I actually do really like this song. There's other songs on the album that I like more again, but I do think that this is quite charming, and I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 for Mr. Eclectic. The next one we're going to do is more of Rae Jepsen's Emotion re-release. If you're a little bit behind, basically, Emotion has turned 10 years old. I did a full deep dive on that album probably a month or two back, so you can go and find that episode. But Emotion is a pop classic, one of the most underrated and also influential pop albums of the 2010s. And now she's celebrating the anniversary of it. She did a show at the Troubadour in LA just a couple days ago, and then also announced that she is releasing a, I guess, deluxe edition of this album, which features 4 new tracks. I have learned that the tracks are actually not specifically from the Vault of Emotion. There are a few tracks from other eras, but I think that more is from the Vault of Emotion. I mean, it's just straight in this world. It's a slice of like effortless disco pop. I don't think it's by any means the strongest song on the album, and I can see why it was left off, but it's so hard to deny the joy when it comes to Carly. Like, it just bleeds from her, and her role as this like joyful pop star feels almost defiant in a world where we've been taught to desire so much more from our pop stars in terms of desire so much depth. And I actually spoke about this with Dua Lipa in a video on my TikTok this week, which was just like, we just require so much depth from artists, and we require them to bare their soul and almost bleed out in front of us. And sometimes it's nice to have a pop star that's just like, you know what, my music is just about joy and is just about escapism and letting go. And you can be here for it or you can't, but it's really fun to listen to. And this song is just that. Like, you don't have to overthink it. It's not going to change pop music. Like, it's just there for a fun time. And for that reason, I am into it. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. As well, I think that it's really fun. I think that the Rae Jepsen isms come out very strongly in it. There's nothing to hate about it, really. The next song that I'm going to do is Just Two Girls by Wolf Alice off their album The Clearing. You will know that I've been very excited for this album. I think that the singles have all been really good, particularly The Sofa is one that has really stuck with me, and I honestly play it daily at this point. I feel like it could go on to be my song of the year. Just Two Girls is in a very different style, but it still is 70s leaning, which feels to be the era that this album is very in. I was going to say stuck in. That sounds like a negative. I mean, it is stuck in the 70s, but it's not a negative. And there's a parallel that I've drawn with The Sofa and this, and something I find really impressive is that Wolf Alice are like rock stars now. Yeah, they're playing huge audiences, huge crowds, and I think it could be very tempting to do an album that is just like fist in the air, like we're the best, braggadocious. And somehow, amongst all the chaos of being this huge band, Wolf Alice have been able to almost write about the mundane. And on both The Sofa and this, they zone in on situations that just feel very personal, very almost basic. I mean, this is just almost about a sitting at a bar between two girls, like talking about life. And The Sofa is about sometimes just being content with the fact that your life's not moving anywhere at this moment in time. Like, just sit in it and enjoy this moment of peace. And I just think that that's so refreshing to hear a band able to make a great song out of something like that feels so everyday. It's almost like a situation that I can imagine as a creative would pass by, and you'd never be like, oh my God, I need to go write a song about this. But they have gone and written a song about it, and we're all the better off for it. Again, like, this is maybe not one of my favorite songs on the album. I know that I sound like a broken record saying that this week, but it is a great song, and everything that they've been giving us on this album I think is really top tier. Produced by Greg Kirsten. He is obviously, like, it comes as no surprise that he does a very good job here. He's actually just extremely good with working with British female artists specifically. I'm going to give this song a 7.8. I feel like it's somewhere in between 8 and 7.5. I can't quite land. But you will get my full review of the album if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram. I'll definitely deliver that over the next couple of days, but very excited to keep unpacking The Clearing. The next one is Sacrifice by Mariah the Scientist off a new album called Hearts Sold Separately.
Ain't nothing that I wouldn't give. All my love and even earthly gifts to my lover. Hope you do outlive me. There's no other making life worth living.
Another album out today. There's just so many. Mariah is... she's been kind of an underrated R&B artist. I feel like I've always known of her existence, but she's never quite had that moment that's just like blown her up into the mainstream. And it finally happened with Burning Blue earlier this year. And then the Carly Uchis collab as well was also charting on the Billboard Hot 100. So I feel like she's finally in like the mainstream psyche. And it's really cool that it's happening because there's nothing like super splashy about these songs. Like, I don't hear it and be like, oh, she's going for a radio hit. I think that it just feels right, the timing for her, for it to be happening around the time that like Kehlani's popping off with Folded as well. It's just these really like almost traditional R&B songs that aren't doing too much other than just being supremely produced and having a really good vocal and story told. And she is just really good at doing that. This song is very much rooted in like, I want to say like early 90s R&B, maybe even 80s. Those synths feel very almost kitsch in a way. But I don't know, I feel like I'm almost hearing Monica when I listen to this. And I really like how she just lays back in this beat, just sings her ass off, tells a really vivid story. And it's just really enjoyable and nice to listen to. I haven't had a chance to listen to the rest of the album yet, but I'm definitely going to. I'm just really impressed by her. I think that she's a really warm presence within the R&B space and even like bleeding over into the pop space as well, I think quite effortlessly. This is a good song. I really enjoy it. I'm actually going to give it an 8 out of 10. Next up is Royel Otis, who also have an album out today called Hickey. who Who's Your Boyfriend is this song. Royel Otis are an Australian duo. I have kind of known of them quite closely since they popped up on the scene because they were like a fast rising band within Australia, and now it's just exploded to be global. And I would actually say maybe their biggest audience now is America. What I like about this song is that it is not really reinventing the wheel when it comes to indie rock, but there is obviously something that's really charming about this band, and also just really kind of like, it feels like you've known them forever, even if you haven't. This song, for example, Who's Your Boyfriend, just has like this hook that you're like, I've heard this before, but you haven't. It's just like so familiar in a really warm and comforting way. It feels like it was written in the 90s. They actually wrote it with Amy Allen, who is kind of Sabrina Carpenter's go-to songwriter now. And I think that that's what takes this from being just another run-of-the-mill alt-rock song and takes it into being something way more impressive and being a song that I feel like is going to be a really big moment for the band this year because it is just elevated. It has an elevated like pop charm to it, and for that reason I actually really like this song. I'm excited to listen to the rest of the album. I heard them performing one of the songs live the other day for like a live radio session, and I was like, this is a hit. Actually, I'm going to look up what it was because I feel like you should go and listen to this one. It was called, bear with me, it was called I Hate This Tune. Very strong. Go and listen to that one as well. But I also recommend this one. Also a 7.5 out of 10. I will get out of the 7.5 zone. I promise. We need Jono here to be a little bit more critical, I feel like. Ava Max has released her album Don't Click Play.
DJ, don't click that. Replay, don't hit that. Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. DJ, don't click that. Replay, don't hit that.
A very confusing few weeks, months, years for Ava Max fans. She basically has disappeared in the lead up to the album. I hypothesized that it was a promo tactic to get more ears and eyes on the project, and it kind of worked because Rolling Stone reached out to her to see where she was. I started talking about her because I noticed that she was missing. Anyway, it leads up to this album, her third album called Don't Click Play. Some are saying it's an unfortunate title. She knew exactly what she was doing. I feel like it's another promo stunt. And this song makes sense because it is in your face in that kind of way. It opens up the album. She addresses the comparisons to Lady Gaga that she's gotten throughout her career, and really for the first time makes this really self-aware, like, fuck you sort of song, which is something we're not used to from Ava Max. She's been really defiant in just making music that is like upbeat pop music, like heartbreak tunes, hands in the air on the dance floor type stuff. But while I thought that Diamonds and Dance Floors, her second album, was really, really strong, like there are some really great songs on that. And I went back to it recently, actually, and I still feel that way. I think people began to get a little bit tired of the constant samples that she was using, of the fact that it never felt like an Ava Max song had a real, true identity. And I don't think that's a criticism that you can make for this song. I think that what this song is missing is actually a really strong hook, which she had plenty of on Diamonds and Dance Floors. The verses pique my interest because of what she's saying, and I'm like, oh, I want to listen to more of this. But then by the time I get to the chorus, the chorus is a whimper, which is frustrating because of what she builds in the verses. I just don't think that it's strong enough to get more ears on her, and I really don't know what she's going to do at this point. I feel like obviously she's having issues with her team. It just feels like she needs to do something either completely different or release pop songs with hooks so sticky that you just cannot deny them. And I've got to go and listen to the album and I'll pick out any songs that do hopefully have that quality to them, but I don't think that this song has that quality. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for Don't Click Play by Ava Max. The next one is Kid Cudi's Mr. Miracle.
Tell me, how did you defeat him? Call me Mr. Miracle. With my back
Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi is somebody that for me, I feel like people attributed a lot of influence to because of how influential his Man on the Moon album was. And even that album, I just don't find to be that good going back on it. But I do think that he introduced this new emotional sector of hip hop where artists weren't afraid to get really in their feels. And I feel like the artists that come after that are ones like Juice WRLD and even Lil Uzi Vert. I mean, there's a whole, like Lil Peep, there's a whole host of them that come after Cudi. So I guess in that way, his influence is there, but he just hasn't done anything that remarkable, I think, for at least 10 years, I want to say. And don't hate me for that. But this album just isn't really showing me that that is going to change, if I'm being honest. It's the same kind of vocals that we've been hearing from him for a while, the same kind of tone. It has this weird like rock star element to it, which is something that I've never gravitated towards when it comes to Cudi. I don't know, that I feel frustrated, like his sound is stagnant. And no matter what he tries, he always slips back into this safe zone that Mr. Miracle sits into. It's just, I don't know. This is not great, if I'm being honest. It's not really sparking interest in me at all. But it's frustrating because when I see Cudi talk and when I see him on stage, I'm like, oh, he really has that charisma. He really has that it factor that just doesn't come across in these songs that sometimes lean on being almost morose, I would say. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Probably my least favorite from this week. Let's see. I've still got one more to go. Do I have one more to go? Yeah, I do. Sex on the Beat by Adella.
Sex on the beat. Do my body dance tonight. Surfing on a silver platter, baby. Make you think the choice is
By now, you should probably know the story of Adella. She was in the show Cat's Eye Pop Star Academy, whatever they were calling it. She missed out on being in the show, almost got painted as kind of a villain on the show, but since then used it as a platform to launch her own solo pop career. And now it is almost impossible to imagine Adella not being on her own. Like, she is meant for this solo pop star lifestyle. What I have found the most intriguing about her is she hasn't gone into making kind of these pitch pop songs that I feel like would be so tempting when you come off a song like this to just fall into a label environment and try and get a quick hit by just featuring on a David Guetta song or something like that. She's been really, really like proactive in making a sound that feels very uniquely her. She's worked with people like Grimes and making this dark pop music that is in your face, but is also experimental. And I say that in the way that Sex on the Beat, for example, doesn't really use traditional pop hooks. Instead, she plays with things like vocal production and synths and sounds in the instruments to make this song feel richly melodic. And I really, really like that. I think it's a really smart way of making pop music. And I know I've spoken to Adella before, I've interviewed her, and I got the sense immediately that she knows exactly the kind of sound that she wants to make as an artist. And you can just see it immediately. This is her debut EP, The Provocateur. And it is so uniquely her and so supremely executed in its vision that I just have no doubts that this is all coming from the mind of her and is a really strong start. I am into this song. I think it's a really successful pop song in a weird and wonky way. I think that a lot of people are making dark pop music right now, if you want to call it that, but she is doing it in a way that feels like there's another dimension to it. It's not just really on the nose, like I'm in my bedroom, depressed, like the world is falling in on me kind of stuff. There's depth to it, and there's fun to it, there's playfulness to it, there is darkness to it, and I'm just really intrigued by what Adella is doing. I think she's a great pop artist, and I'm really excited to see what she does next. And I'm actually excited to dig into this EP further. There was just so much out today that I haven't had a chance to get into it all in depth, but excited to touch on this one. That's me for Bop or Flop this week. You can go to Pops MCAM's New Music Friday playlist and you can dig into more on that. That has a lot of the stuff that I've been loving this week. I will drop the link for that in the show notes down below. Next week, I've got some fun episodes planned, actually. We're going to do some throwback Bop or Flops. We are going to do next week or the week after. It's a game that I'm calling Underrated Artist Roulette. I don't think it has anything to do with roulette, to be honest. I'm not a gambler. I have no idea what roulette's like. But basically, with two other music presenters, radio hosts, I am going to get them to bring 3 of their most underrated artists to the table. I'm going to bring 3 of mine to the table. And we're basically going to go 1 for 1 until we figure out who is sitting at the top of the underrated artist pyramid. So I will have that for you next week or the week after. This feels like a planning session. I never let you in this much, but I'm also going to do a deep dive into Madonna's Ray of Light. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I feel like so many albums from this year, Ray of Light was referenced. Everything from Miley Cyrus's Something Beautiful to, I think, elements of it on Mayhem. I don't think the sound's directly pulled from that, but I think that it's an important reference point for it. I think that Dua Lipa often uses Ray of Light as a reference, and I want to talk about why that album continues to come up as such a gold standard for pop stars now, when I don't think it was that entirely when it was released. Anyway, I'll get more into that later, but appreciate you for joining me for Bop or Flop, even in the absence of Jono. Thank you so much. I will see you next week on the Pop Pod.